Sometimes the deepest pain doesn't come from what someone did, but from what they never told you. Riley thought she knew everything about her life, until one quiet afternoon in the attic changed it all forever. It started like any other lazy Sunday afternoon. The kind where the sun shines just right through the living room windows, and nothing feels urgent. Kandi had just made lemonade, Riley was home from school for the weekend, and they were finally getting around to cleaning the attic, a task they had been putting off for months. "Come on, Riley," Kandi called cheerfully, "we'll find some baby photos of you. Maybe even that little pink dress you used to love." Riley laughed. "Only if I get to keep the dress. I need proof I had fashion sense at age 2. They climbed the narrow stairs together, teasing and giggling. The attic smelled like old books and wooden floors. Sunlight filtered through a tiny dusty window, and boxes were stacked high in every corner. As they sifted through old Christmas decorations and boxes labeled Escape Memories, Riley stumbled across a small, faded trunk tucked under a pile of blankets. Unlike the others, this one had a lock. And unlike the others, Kandi didn't smile when she saw it. Riley looked up. "What's in this one?" Kandi hesitated, just for a second. But that second felt long. "Oh, that's just old papers," she said quickly, reaching to move the box aside. "Nothing important." But Riley's curiosity had already lit a spark. That night, after Kandi went to bed, Riley quietly crept back up to the attic. She brought a hairpin and flashlight, heart racing, hands shaking. It wasn't just curiosity anymore, it was instinct. Something about that locked box didn't sit right. She opened the lock with a soft click. Inside were papers. Dozens of them. Birth records. Court documents. And then a letter. Folded neatly in an envelope. On the back was written, "For Riley when she's ready." Her hands trembled as she opened it. The words inside felt like thunder in her chest. "Dear Riley, I'm your aunt. Your birth mother was my sister. She loved you so much, but life didn't let her stay. Kandi took you in when nobody else could. You were only 2. You deserve to know the truth one day. I pray that day comes with love, not anger." Riley froze. Her lips parted. Her breath hitched. Her world shattered. "What do you mean Kandi took me in?" she whispered to the empty attic. Tears rolled down her face before she even knew she was crying. Everything she thought she knew about her life, about her mom, suddenly felt like a story someone else had written. One she wasn't allowed to read, until now. She folded the letter, put it back, and sat in silence. All the birthday candles, all the school pickups, all the late-night talks. Were they real? Or were they just part of the lie? The attic was quiet. But inside Riley's heart, a storm had just begun. The next morning, the house smelled like waffles and cinnamon. Kandi was humming in the kitchen, flipping pancakes like it was any other beautiful day. But for Riley, nothing felt normal anymore. She sat at the table, staring at her plate, her fork untouched. Her eyes were tired but not from sleep. From crying. "Morning, baby girl," Kandi said, placing a glass of juice in front of her. "You okay?" Riley nodded quickly. "Yeah, just tired." But the way she said it didn't sound like Riley. She looked at Kandi's face. Her soft smile. Her eyes always felt like home. And for a second, Riley almost convinced herself it wasn't true. Maybe she had misunderstood the letter. Maybe it was all just some cruel mistake. But the letter had her name. Her story. Her truth. And Kandi had lied. All morning, Riley moved through the house like a ghost. Folding laundry, checking her phone, cleaning her room. Trying to act normal. Trying not to scream. She opened her camera roll and scrolled through baby photos. Kandi holding her at birthday parties, Kandi brushing her hair before school, Kandi kissing her forehead after cheer competitions. Riley put the phone down and whispered to herself, "Why didn't you just tell me?" That night, they sat on the couch watching a movie, but Riley wasn't watching. Her mind was playing a different film, of memories now shaded with questions. Every "I love you" from Kandi now felt like it had a shadow. She wanted to ask. She wanted to yell. She wanted to run. But she stayed silent. Until Kandi said gently, "You've been quiet all day, baby. Talk to me." Riley's chest tightened. This was the moment. But her throat closed up. "I'm just thinking about stuff," she said softly. "What kind of stuff?" Kandi asked. Riley looked at her. And for a second, she saw not the woman who raised her, but the woman who hid the truth. And then, without thinking, she asked, "Am I really your daughter?" The room went still. Kandi blinked. Her mouth opened, then closed again. "Where is this coming from?" Riley's hands were shaking now. Her voice cracked. "I found the letter. The one in the attic. From my aunt. She said you took me in. That I had a different mom. That you never told me." Kandi didn't answer, because there was nothing she could say to make it unhappen. Tears filled Riley's eyes. "I asked you so many times about my baby photos. About my birth. And you always had an answer. Always a smile. I thought we were close. I trusted you." Kandi's voice was low, almost trembling. "You are my daughter. You always have been. I didn't carry you, but I raised you. I loved you like you were my own. Because you are." "But you lied," Riley whispered. "You lied every day." And with that, she stood up and walked out of the room. Kandi sat there in silence. Her little girl had just looked at her like a stranger, and she didn't know how to fix it. Riley didn't pack a bag. She didn't grab a sweater. She just ran. Down the front steps, past the porch swing, out into the cool evening air with nothing but the ache in her chest and the weight of that letter still burned into her memory. She didn't know where she was going, until her feet took her there anyway. Her aunt's house. The same aunt who had written the letter she found. The one who had used words like, "You deserve to know," and "I wish I had told you sooner." Riley stood at the door, heart pounding. She rang the bell. Then twice. The door opened, and there she was. Well, older now, hair grayer, but those same gentle eyes. "Riley," she said, surprised. "Sweetheart, what's wrong?" Riley didn't speak. She just held out the letter, her hands trembling. Val read it, and her face changed. She stepped back and let Riley inside. "I never meant for you to find out this way," Val said, sitting down beside her. "I wrote that letter after your 14th birthday. I never sent it. I thought Kandi would tell you herself." Riley wiped her eyes. "Why didn't she?" Val sighed. "Because she was scared. Scared you'd stop loving her." Silence filled the room. Riley's voice was shaky. "Was my mom bad? Is that why no one talks about her?" Val looked away. For a long moment. "She wasn't bad," she finally said. "She was just lost. She had you young. Life was hard. Kandi stepped in when no one else would. She took you in, fed you, raised you, protected you, even when she was struggling herself." Riley blinked back tears. "So, she's not my real mom?" Val took her hand. "She may not be your birth mother. But honey, in every way that matters, she is your real mom." Riley looked down. Then whispered the question that had been tearing her apart. "Then why did she lie?" Val's eyes welled up. "Because she wanted to protect you from a truth that felt too heavy. She thought love was enough. Maybe you didn't need to know how messy the beginning was, as long as the middle and the end were beautiful." Riley stood up. Everything inside her felt like a shattered mirror, too many broken pieces, and no idea how to put it back together. "She should have trusted me with the truth," she said quietly. Val nodded. "Yes, she should have. But she still loves you," she added. "More than you know." Riley turned toward the door. She didn't know where she was going next. But one thing was clear. She had questions no one wanted to answer, and she wasn't done asking. It was past midnight when Riley walked back into the house. The lights were off. The silence was loud. But as soon as the door clicked shut behind her, Kandi appeared at the top of the stairs, eyes swollen, face pale, like she hadn't slept in days, even though it had only been a few hours. "Riley," she breathed out, her voice cracking. Riley looked up. She didn't say anything. Not yet. Kandi stepped down slowly. Her arms slightly raised like she wanted to hug her, but stopped halfway, uncertain if she still had the right to. "I've been calling," Kandi said softly. "I didn't know where you went." "I was with Aunt Val," Riley replied, her voice flat. The pause. "I read the letter," Riley added. "The one she wrote to me, but never sent." Kandi looked down. And for the first time in Riley's life, she saw something in her mother's eyes she had never seen before. Not the fear of losing an argument. The fear of losing her. "You lied to me," Riley said. Not shouting. Not crying. Just quiet. And somehow that hurt more. "I didn't lie," Kandi said slowly. "I just didn't tell you." "That's the same thing," Riley snapped, voice sharp like broken glass. "All these years, you let me believe something that wasn't true." Kandi stepped closer. "You were so little. You had already been through so much. I thought I was doing what was best." "No," Riley interrupted. "You were doing what was easiest." That landed. Kandi sat down on the bottom stair and whispered, "I was scared, Riley. Of what? Of the truth making you feel unloved, unwanted. I wanted to rewrite your story. Give you a life that didn't start in chaos. Riley shook her head. But it did start in chaos. And hiding it didn't make it go away. Kandi's voice broke. I didn't know how to be a mom at first. But I tried. Every day. I chose you over and over again. I raised you. I loved you. Fight for you. Riley's chin trembled. Then why didn't you trust me with the truth? Kandi stood now. Her eyes are glossy. Because I didn't want you to look at me and feel betrayed. Like you are right now. Tears spilled from Riley's eyes. It's not just about the secret. It's that I don't know what else isn't real anymore. Kandi stepped closer. And this time, Riley didn't back away. Then let me tell you everything, Kandi said. The whole story. No more secrets. She reached out her hand. I'm still your mom. Maybe not by blood, but by every heartbeat since the day I held you. Riley stared at her for a long, painful moment. Then slowly she reached out too. Their hands touched. But even as they sat down together, and Kandi began to speak, Riley knew. Some stories don't just explain the past. They change the future. Kandi took a deep breath. Then another. And finally spoke. I was 23 when I met your birth mom, she said gently. She wasn't doing well. She had problems, a lot of them. Drugs, no job, no support. She had just given birth to you, tiny, beautiful, and already crying like the world had wronged you. Riley sat still. Every word felt like a hammer breaking through her old memories. She was my cousin's friend, Kandi continued. And the first time I held you, you were 3 days old. Wrapped in a hospital blanket, shaking from the cold. She looked at me and said, you want her? You can have her. Riley's eyes widened. She said that, her voice trembled. Kandi nodded. Like you were nothing. Like you didn't matter. Riley's chest tightened. I couldn't just walk away, Kandi said. I told her I'd help, just for a few days. But the days turned into weeks, the weeks into months, and one night she just never came back. Riley's voice cracked. So, she gave me away? No, Kandi said firmly. She left you. But I chose you. Silence again. Riley whispered, did she ever try to find me? Kandi looked down. She called once. You were 4. I told her if she ever wanted to see you, she'd have to prove she was clean, stable, ready. Riley's throat tightened. And? She never called again. Riley blinked fast, trying to stop the tears. So, all this time, you weren't just my mom because you raised me. You were my mom because you saved me. Kandi looked up, tears streaking her cheeks. I didn't save you, she whispered. You saved me. You gave my life purpose. You made me fight harder, work longer, and love deeper. Riley slowly moved closer on the couch. And the name? Why didn't I ever know I wasn't yours by birth? Kandi smiled softly. You always were mine. I gave you my name and my heart. I didn't want you to grow up with labels. I wanted you to feel like you belonged. Because you did. You still do. Riley's tears finally fell. Big quiet sobs. And Kandi didn't hesitate. She pulled her into her arms, like she had when Riley was little and afraid of the dark. And for a moment, the house felt whole again. But just as peace returned, Riley pulled back and asked, but what about my real mom? Where is she now? Kandi hesitated, and that hesitation said it all. There's more, she admitted. Riley's heart started pounding. What more? And then saw. Kandi whispered a name Riley had never heard before. She didn't stay gone forever. The next morning, Riley sat at the kitchen table, eyes swollen from crying, heart pounding with questions. She barely touched her cereal. Kandi placed a gentle hand on her shoulder. I didn't tell you everything last night, because I didn't want to overwhelm you. Riley looked up. But you said she never came back. She didn't, for a long time, Kandi said. But 5 years ago she did. Riley froze. She came looking for you, Kandi continued. She'd gone through rehab, joined a support group, and found a steady job. She wanted to make things right. Riley's voice cracked. Why didn't you tell me? Because I didn't know if she would stay clean, Kandi said honestly. I didn't want to drag you through her ups and downs. You deserved stability, not confusion. Riley whispered, is she still around? Kandi nodded. She lives just outside Atlanta. Quiet life. Still working. Still sober. She asks about you every year on your birthday. That hit Riley like a thunderbolt. Every year? She never stopped caring, Kandi said. She just didn't know how to come back without hurting you again. A silence fell between them. Then Riley said quietly, "Can I meet her?" Kandi looked at her, deeply, carefully, and then nodded. "I'll call her." 2 weeks later, Riley stood at a small coffee shop downtown. Her hands were shaking. And then, the bell over the door rang. In walked a woman with familiar eyes. Not exactly like Riley's, but close. A little older, a little nervous, holding a small bouquet of flowers. She walked slowly toward the table. "Riley," she said softly. Riley stood up. They both stared at each other for a moment that felt like an hour. And then, Riley nodded. "Yes. I'm sorry," the woman said, eyes already filled with tears. "For everything." Riley didn't know what to say. The pain, the confusion, the longing, it all swirled together. But instead of running, she sat down and whispered, "I just want to know who I came from. That's all." The woman smiled, through tears. "That's more than I ever thought I'd get." Back at home that night, Kandi waited on the couch, phone in hand. Riley walked in, quiet, but calm. Kandi stood. "How was it?" Riley paused, then smiled gently. "She's not you," she said. "But she's trying." Kandi's eyes welled up. "I'm not losing you, am I?" she whispered. Riley walked over and hugged her tight. "No," she said. "You're not losing me. You found me. And you never let me go."